Hey everyone, this is Rock from StageandSky.com, and this one I wrote about it and I wasn't going to do a video on it, but I think it needs to be put out there. This is going to talk about the two cases of the 60-year-old men dating 18-year-old women. You know, like they're just turned 18. They're barely legal. I hate to use that term, but they are barely legal. Like one guy, he married an 18-year-old who just turned 18, and then they got married. There's a lot of uproar and outrage about, oh my god, they're dating someone so young. That's so creepy. And even recently I was talking to my dentist, and I'm 35, right? And I said, yeah, I'm open to dating someone who's 18. And she looked at me, she's like, but you're gonna have problems, I'm just like, all right, hear me out. All right, because I'm about to break something down for a lot of people who don't seem to understand. So let's start from the beginning. Recently, news broke out that a 63-year-old pastor out of Iowa, he married an 18-year-old woman after her birthday. People were outraged. They were saying this is wrong, and yet something seems odd here. For some reason, I find the reactions more interesting than the pastor and his young bride. This isn't the first time in recent memory that I saw a story of an older man marrying a just now legal woman. Last October, another 61-year-old man here in Florida married his 18-year-old goddaughter, and she's beautiful. I see this picture, it looks like an uncle and a niece, And again, outrage ensued. The general complaint was, this is an older man preying on a young, naive, inexperienced girl. And you hear this all the time. Well, black men, they need to protect our women, right? And some of the comments is, you know what, this is just disgusting. It's creepy, and who cares what the law says? Who cares if it's legal? It's just wrong, right, Rock? Rock? And I'm looking like this guy. So let's take it back to 2009, all right? Because the best way to help you guys understand is to basically not force my beliefs down your throat, but just help you understand what led us to this point, okay? Let's take it back to 2009, remember? Tolerance and acceptance. That was all the rage for alternative lifestyles. We had shows like Glee, Modern Family, normalizing those who were different, just to break down the traditional norms and to get America to get used to a newer, better, put that in quotes, world where everyone is loved and accepted for just being who they are, no matter what they are, right? Peace and tolerance. What happens in the comfort of your own home is no one's business, right? Sounds awesome, right? Who are you to stand in the way of love? That was one of the arguments when it comes to gay marriage in the Supreme Court. Why are people standing in the way of two consenting adults? It's just love. Now ask yourself, how is tolerance and acceptance going to work in a nation that's made up of hundreds of cultures? What's right to you and your culture may be wrong to me and my culture. So what are we going to do? Are you going to shame me for thinking the way I think? Are you going to claim that I'm wrong for wanting what I want? Do you think your culture is better than mine? You think that what you want is more important than what I want? You see what I'm saying here? In the case of the 63-year-old pastor, Dwight Reed out of Iowa, I'm going to be talking mainly to the black community here because, there's a change.org petition. When I wrote this essay, there's already 4,000 signatures where they were asking the DA, the district attorney, to investigate him. And basically, they wanted to investigate him for any wrongdoing, any kind of statutory allegations, stuff like that, okay? And most of the opinions that you heard from the black community about this pastor marrying an 18-year-old woman from his congregation was, ooh, gross, he's way too old. He's basically a predator that preyed on her because she had to have been younger when she first started courting her. This is disturbing behavior. She's way too young and inexperienced to know better. He's taking advantage of her. He was just grooming her to be his wife while she was still young. Men just want to control women. Remember all these complaints. Remember it, okay? Because this is what drives me up the wall, is when you hear their logic and it's like they don't apply it to themselves, okay? But so just remember those complaints I just laid out for you. And I have my essay down below, the link down below, so you can check out the website and you can see it and read it for yourself, okay? Now, let's talk about this pastor. To add more context about this pastor, his name is Dwight Reed, 63, out of Iowa. Apparently, he's been married and divorced 3 times. Now, if you read my essays about divorce, then you know that I shared the Lord's heavy disapproval of divorce unless adultery happened in all 3 cases. But even if that was the case, even if adultery happened in all 3 cases, which justifies him divorcing his wives, I don't think he should be a pastor of a congregation. Why? Because Apostle Paul gave qualifications about the kind of man who should be leading the flock. It's by example, basically. And that's at Titus chapter 1, verse 5 through 16. I encourage everyone to read it. But all that aside, when it comes to him, Dwight Reed, marrying this 18, 19-year-old woman, unless an investigation comes to light and brings and exposes statutory acts that happened before her 18th birthday, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but the pastor is not wrong. Yes, I do think it's creepy, you know, optic-wise, but he didn't break any laws. The woman is of legal age of consent. I mentioned this in a YouTube video. I think O'Shea Jackson posted about it. That's where I found out about it. He didn't do anything wrong, and she's of legal age to give consent. And you know, I was immediately hit with this classic, oh, what about if it was your daughter? That's kind of like obligatory. You're gonna get that. What about you? What if it was you? What if it was someone you know? I responded with, if my 18 or 19-year-old daughter married a 60-year-old man, I take it as a sign that, one, I messed up as a father, because my influence and being in her life should have prevented her from going that route. But if I don't take an active part in her life, if I have a horrible relationship with my daughter, I may not like it, but as a consenting adult, she's free to do what she wants. Also, I can tell you this, if I had a daughter, I'd much rather have her be married to a 60-year-old man at the age of 18 than be in her 40s, 50s, and 60s, single and childless. I know there are some single women out there who find fulfillment and happiness beyond their childbearing years, but overall, in general, I suspect there's a great deal of pain, sadness, and regret unless this woman's found Christ and has the faith to keep her head up, seeking first the kingdom of heaven. I say that as a single man myself who seeks first the kingdom of heaven. Yet occasionally I do feel that pain. I feel the sadness and the regret because I am single. I'm 35. I don't have kids. You know, so I feel lonely on occasion. But most part, I keep my mind focused on the kingdom of heaven. But Rock, some things don't need to be against the law to just be morally wrong. You don't say. So let's talk about that, okay? Some things don't need to be against the law to be morally wrong. Okay, let's talk about it. There are plenty of things, practices, behaviors that are legal in today's society and American culture right now, but I think they're morally wrong, like abortion. This brings us back to my initial point about tolerance and acceptance. Now, in the case of Dwight Reed and this 18-year-old girl, clearly it's morally right to this couple, but you think it's morally wrong. But based on what? Think about it. For instance, I can articulate in full detail why the hookup culture is morally wrong and stupid. I can debate on an intellectual level, on a macro level, on a societal level, and most importantly on a biblical level. Meaning, I believe it's morally wrong because God deems it to be morally wrong. And if anyone who claims to be a Christian, this is like this is a litmus test. I always say for ladies I match with, you know, after I talk to them for a while and they claim to be Christian and I'm getting a good feel from them, I pose this question. I say, hey, if the world tells you a certain lifestyle is okay and it's right to have praise for it, but the Bible tells you that that lifestyle is sin, which way do you sway? And 9 times out of 10, you find a lot of ladies, they're not cool with just saying, oh, I sway the Bible's way. They want to defend and deflect and say, oh, well, I don't shove my beliefs down people's throats. And I'm like, dude, I don't either, but I sway the Bible's way, you know? So, all that aside, let's go back to the moral argument. How is it morally wrong that this 60-year-old man is with this 18-year-old? Well, how about we all agree that a 60-year-old man marrying a barely legal girl is just wrong? Can't we agree on that? Why? Why do we need to agree on that? Consider what's going on in black culture right now. Over the past 30 years, over 70% of black children are being born outside of wedlock. The widespread single-parent household is on the rise. This is a problem. I've said it in many of my essays, many of my videos. I think a lot of black people, black commentators, they're speaking up on it because it contributes to the prison population, to black on black violence, stupid people making stupid decisions, the police brutality. I mean, it's not like the police just, I mean, there's cause and effect, right? Like the police, like an asteroid don't fall out of the sky. I hate to say it, you know? Like if you're drawing attention to yourself from the police to get yourself in a position where the police brutality happens, it's because you did something. Responsibility, accountability. So tell me, what's better for the girl? Getting with someone her own age and conceiving a child outside of wedlock? Or getting married to a much older man and having children with him? Believe it or not, your answer speaks volumes to the kind of person you are. But what about the children? All right, forget your own personal happiness and let's talk about the children. What's better for them? All right, check out this sister who bullface tells Steve Harvey that she's ready to have a child, but she doesn't want to get married. She asked this on live TV.
Now, I've thought a lot about this, and I'm ready to have a child, but I don't necessarily want to be married. And I know that I'm financially capable of taking care of a child on my own. So my question is, would it be selfish of me to enter into an agreement with the guy just for his sperm and I maintain legal rights to the child?
But Rock, when it comes to this old guy, you know, he's likely to die soon, so he's not even going to be around forever for the child. Yeah, as if Pookie and Riri are around for their baby mamas. Wow, Rock, are you really defending this pastor? It's more of an attack, really. Because one thing I hate about this modern culture is that we think we know so much better than our ancestors about how things should be. We have more knowledge, yes, than our ancestors. Yes, we do. But without the wisdom, we are a bunch of idiots, okay? Anyone looking at transgenders competing against women in sports can clearly see that those transgenders have an advantage over the women, but we're supposed to pretend that our own logic is deceiving us. Oh, well, that's fine. There's nothing to see here. Just move along. But also, there's something else I need to address here. Why do you think a 60-year-old man would want an 18-year-old woman? Right? I mean, this is a question a lot of ladies ask. What I didn't publish this essay, the video of this essay, but basically I was asked recently, Rock, do you like intelligent women? Because I said, you know, as a 35-year-old man, I could see myself dating someone as young as 18. I wouldn't prefer it, meaning if I saw a 26-year-old and 18-year-old, I'm not gonna be like, nah, 26, I'm going for the 18. No, like there's other factors into it, but I'm not gonna exclude, I'm not gonna cut out an 18-year-old if she's attracted to me. You know, and a woman asked me, well, Rock, don't you want someone that you have a lot in common with and a woman with more experience? And it's like, no. Seriously, do you guys not know what men want? That's why Kevin Samuels, when he passed, I was so disappointed because he was trying to tell you people, like, this is what men are wanting. But we're misogynists and we're sexist if we speak up and we're open and honest about these things, right? So I'm gonna hit you with what this 60-year-old man may be thinking by marrying an 18-year-old, okay? One of the main arguments is that, oh, well, he's just looking for someone he can control. And I have Jack Nicholson nodding here. This is going to sound very bad, but I need you to bear with me. All right, don't just cut the video off here and say, see, he's sexist. You got to listen, all right? Ladies, I know any semblance of a man wanting to control a woman sounds misogynistic and oppressive. We all get it. We all get it. And maybe that's why a lot of women say they're open to men who are spiritual but not religious. Because a Christian man, anyone who claims to be Christian knows the Bible, we know that we're supposed to be the head of our households. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. Meaning, we as men, we're responsible. Husbands are to love and honor our wives with understanding and love and kindness, but wives are to submit to their husband's authority. So, if by control you mean a woman who listens to me and follows my lead, yes, that's what I'm looking for in my future wife. That doesn't mean I want her to be a slave, as some are so quick to exaggerate, but it's really about our leadership. We can't lead if you're not a follower, all right? If you don't want to follow, you know, you hear that all the time. It's so dumb, okay? In the video here, a woman complains about men going after younger women. She says, or she puts it, an older, more experienced woman isn't going to put up with a man's BS. That's what she says.
So I did a video talking about how I think it's so strange that some men fetishize women in their 20s and treat women in their 30s like they're so much less desirable. And I got so much shit in the comments. This is one of them that I wanted to break down a little bit. So by you calling women in their 30s cynical is a way to discredit them because they know better. They're fed up with men's bullshit and you don't like that, so you're gonna start name calling. And then on the other hand, you're going to compliment these 20-somethings by calling them carefree, when in reality you're basically saying you want them young and dumb, and you don't want them to know about your bullshit. You want them to not have that life experience, so you'd rather date younger so you can get away with more bullshit. I just don't think you realize like how predatory that kind of sounds, and at the very least it's very immature.
First, people mature at different rates, so you could be young and mature because you came from a well family with a good upbringing and morals and standards. 2, you do sound like a 30-plus-year-old bitter lady that had to go through 10,000 Ds just to get some experience and know what she wants. But now it's too late because nobody wants you, and the bitterness is just coming out. It's not predatory, it's just common sense. We're talking about biology and dating like we were saying earlier. Okay, sorry sis that you are now 30 plus and it took you 10,000 dudes to learn what you should have been taught.
So let's say that's true, all right? Let's say that this woman's right, that an older, more experienced woman is more likely not to put up with a man's BS, while implying that all men have a bunch of BS, you know, and I guess women don't. But a younger woman, a younger, more inexperienced woman, she's more likely to tolerate our BS. Okay, so let me address that one more time. What this woman is saying is that the older, more experienced a woman is, the more likely she's not going to be tolerant to a man's BS, while a younger, more inexperienced woman is going to be more open to putting up with us. Doesn't that sound like a no-brainer? Or is the lady suggesting that we, as men, have a lot of BS and we should change to then be more compatible to the older woman? Because that's what men want. Older and experience over youth, beauty, fertility. Do you see how silly that sounds? Seriously. Just as women are free to have preferences to pick and choose what kind of man they want, and men, we've been hearing it for years, right? You want 6 figures, you want the guy 6 feet tall, and all power to you. If you want those things, go for it. We're not going to stop you. We would enlighten you that, it makes up a small percent of the population, so your, chances of getting that, it's going to be slim. But go for it. Men, we have the same freedom. No matter how much we're scolded and shamed for wanting what we want, it's not going to change. Human beings, men for generations have always valued youth, beauty, fertility in women and femininity. I was just doing research on Nikola Tesla, and sure enough, he said the same thing. He's like, one of the things that was very disappointing about women is that they're trying to replace and supplant men. Like the women that he found superior to him in his youth. And then I felt the same way. You feel unworthy of getting a woman unless you've made something of yourself when you're a young man, because you do feel like women are better. So then you build yourself up, but it's the femininity that we're attracted to, not other women who act like men. I kind of getting off subject here, but I matched with a girl, she was long distance. When I called her, it felt like I was talking to a guy. There was no affection in her words, her terms. It's like no one talked to her and said, hey, this is what men want, and this is, I'm really hitting the black community here because this seems to be a big problem, that I don't think, white women have to deal with. And I think the white women who do have to deal with it is because they're usually influenced by hip hop culture, which is really why I'm attacking black people, because we're hip hop, like most, man, how do I put it without sounding so bad? When it comes to white people, this is an aside, I'm just going to add to this essay. When it comes to white people, there's greater diversity in the cultures. You have the skaters, you have the rockers, you have the hunters, you have the people who play golf, the baseball players. There's more diversity in the cultures. When it comes to black people, however, when it comes to popular black culture, there's hip hop, there's Southern Baptist, and you might have the anime crew, Anything other than that, like you have the Shannon Sharps of the world, we're acting white, or we wish we were white. Like there's very little diversity. You're either in this clique or in this box, or you wish you were white, and this is a problem. And I think it's not just black men who experience this, but black women too, which is why you have black women going for white men, which makes sense. Like you go where you're appreciated, you go where you're accepted. If you don't fit in, you hear my voice, all right? I barely curse. I don't speak hood and slang. So if I talk to someone like Cardi B, she and we're not gonna click. She's gonna look at me like I'm weird. I'm gonna look at her like I can't. Your voice is too. I can't. So it's just not going to click. And I think the problem when it comes to our culture, especially this strong and independent push, men and women, we're not supposed to be independent of each other. Husband and wives, we're supposed to be depending on each other. Like we're supposed to connect. We're supposed to complement each other. And society's making women more like men, and they're trying to make men more like women, but that's not flying. Men are still men. We're still masculine, toxic, masculine, traditional men. And we're going for women who are feminine, soft-spoken, soft-natured, good-natured, self-sacrificing. Like sweet, and I saw a video that there's a crew on YouTube where there's a lady who openly says,
I'm not gonna lie, that stigma is associated with black athletes and entertainers. They seem to go after the white women or the lighter skinned women.
White women, they cater better, they're more submissive than black women. Black women, they talk back.
Have to say
That's
that.
one thing. Black women, we talk back.
We
talk back. We don't listen. We're not as submissive as a white woman.
So why your tone can't be in a conversation tone?
It shouldn't be like a situation where you're you think she's talking to you crazy. She's telling you how she feels, and you should take that in consideration before anything explodes.
What you even saying that you got other women like a white woman she could have that same conversation with a
They
regular
be like,
tone.
honey.
Exactly.
They
But
talk to you so like loving.
and you know-
like,
and you
no.
know,
And she says it as if it's a bad thing. It's like, no, darling, that's what I love. You know, I love cutesy. You're a girl. I want a girl. You know? Okay, all right. I got off my rant. Okay, let's get back to the essay. So yeah, man, we have the same freedom, no matter how much we're scolded, shame for wanting what we want. Okay, so when I see this pastor marrying an 18-year-old girl, it's not surprising to me. Right now, the tacit statement that I see given to a lot of men is, especially particularly black men, is shut up and give what we give you and be damn grateful that you're getting anything at all. That's the message that I see pushed out there, you know, when it comes to, you know, our prospects when it comes to marriage. You know, we're being told that, oh, we're not economically eligible, viable.
Not enough eligible black males who fit the needs of black women. So black women are excelling. They're getting accelerated degrees, graduate degrees, doctorate degrees. They're starting businesses. Black women are running circles around men.
Right.
And it's also shown in research that women want to marry on their same level of financial and educational status.
If there's a responsibility that comes with making more money, accept it. You wanted to make more money. Right? You know, are you going to find many men out there that makes as much as you do?
I can do that by myself. When I think of submission, I think maybe back in the 50s, in the 40s. But I think, what is submissive in the, 2020? What is submissive? I think we have to define that. And I think for me, it would never work, right?
Women get the end of the stick and everything. And at this point, live your life.
It's weird. Like, they just don't like black women. They take pride in bashing and putting black women down.
Yeah, and then I got into an entanglement with August. That's what I said.
An entanglement?
Yes.
What can men do leaving here? Be better.
And all power to them. Honestly, I have no complaints. However, just like you're free to pick and choose how you want to live your life, men are free to do the same thing. All men are going to want the six-figure jobs. We find peace and solitude and happiness in doing what's good in God's eyes, or just finding something that we like to do when it comes to our job. And if that job doesn't pay a lot of money, guess what? As long as it makes us happy, we're gonna go for it. If it pays the bills, if it puts roof over our head, if it puts food in the fridge, and we can afford our family, we're gonna live within our means. You know, so stop fucking telling us to go beyond our means just to get a queen. No. That's not the way men are. Not the way real men are. When I say real men, I'm talking about men who lead. You know, the kind of men whose women say that they want. They say, oh, we want men to be leaders. Guess what? If you want a man who's leader, he's going this way. You know, if you want that leader, follow him. Don't ask this man to change his path for you. Otherwise, that's not a leader. So, the tacit message is shut up men, take what we give you. So if I'm, I want a fit woman who's in shape, nope, we're big and we're beautiful, so take that. If I like someone who's cutesy, adorable, and lovey-dovey and affectionate, nope, we have sass and attitude, fierce, slay queen, slay. Now obviously there's great diversity in personalities, alright? I get that. Not all women fit in just these two categories. Not all black women fit in just these two categories. The point is, if you aren't what I'm looking for and you don't want to be what I'm looking for, doesn't it make sense for me to look elsewhere? On this, it's not just a black and white thing. It's not a young and old thing, but more and more men, they're talking about finding wives overseas.
So I got to get this off my chest. I'm sorry. So y'all know in my last video, I talked about not being a wife to your boyfriend. How it's levels to this. Be acting like a wife if you ain't one.
And by the way she takes care of me, she inspires me every day.
I don't ask for this.
And let's be clear, I've never been one of those women who walk around the world looking for a man or a husband. Getting married is not even in my top 3. It's barely making my top 5.
Being a domestic partner is normal for her. I take care of the bills, she takes care of the house. That's the kind of world I want to live in.
I don't want to hear, why men always have to pay. Because women are the prize. I'm not going half. I'm not tipping. I'm not, my turn. I'm not your girlfriend, okay? McDonald's don't suffice for me no more. I'm grown. I'm grown!
This is my partner in crime. my lover, my friend, my translator, my right hand here in Thailand. And the craziest part of it all, the women outnumber the men here, it seems like 40-1.
This is kind of funny. There's a post that I saw about in Sweden, I think it was, like some people or some feminists are getting upset with Thai women coming to Sweden, and there's a theory that the reason why feminists are upset is because it lowers the power of their sexuality. You know, like once upon a time, you know, like Sweden men, all they had was what, you know, the kind of women they are. But you have all these Thai women coming in with their, you know, submissive, docile, fit and feminine energy, and suddenly those sweet women who are strong, masculine females, you know, it's like, oh, now they have options. We don't like that. That's why we want to keep Thai women out. That was just a theory. I'm not sure if it's true, but just putting it out there. Now, I don't know the 63-year-old pastor personally. However, but since the dawn of antiquity, men of all ages, we've always been attracted to a woman's youth, beauty, and fertility, as I said. Always. That's always been what we've been into. I know sometimes people trick us nowadays that, oh, well, you know, she also has a degree and you should want this because, you know, she has a high value job and she's strong and independent, and those things are cool. I'm not trying to demean those things. Those things are awesome. If I had a daughter, sister, cousin, God bless them. That's so cool. However, the priorities that men are attracted to. We don't look across the bar and say, man, I bet she's a PhD. No, we're looking at you and like, man, she is fit, she is attractive to the eye. And then we go over there and then we want to learn more about you. And if your only argument against this old man marrying an 18-year-old is, well, we as a community don't like it, I'm sorry, but that's not going to fly with me. Why? Because the morality of the community is kind of messed up. It'd be one thing if the culture promoted decent, good, and moral lifestyles. Then you have something to grandstand on. And it's not just black female celebrities promoting wicked and moral lifestyles, but men, they're doing it too. Rappers. And here's the deal. Like, I think, honestly, the media and maybe a concerted effort to basically turn black culture into trash, essentially. You know, like, there's a saying that hip-hop is the art of making bad things look cool. Alright, I've been speaking about the detrimental effects of gangster rappers and hip-hop culture for years. My point being is that our mainstream culture is pushing tolerance and acceptance for all kinds of practices that God disapproves of. Ironically, while getting tattoos with Christian crosses and touting, only God can judge me. But Rock, he was married 3 times and divorced. Unless adultery is involved, then by your own Lord and Savior's lips, he's committing adultery by marrying another woman. I agree. Now, let's say he's never been married before. Would you still have a problem with him marrying an 18-year-old? I'm saying though, why can't he marry someone his own age? You basically want this guy to do what you want him to do based on what you think should be happening, and you're not him. You're you. We're individuals, you get it? We can go in circles with this, but suffice to say, I suspect, again, this might sting a little, but jealousy is involved. Jealousy and a resentment that despite mainstream culture's best efforts to break down traditions and get us men to conform and accept just anything, men are still men. I know, movies, TVs, commercials, they would have you believe, Disney, I mean, all these Marvel shows, they have you believe that most men were changing to conform at the time.
You've got to do better, Senator. You've got to step up.
And maybe a lot of people have, but I haven't. But Rock, he's taking advantage of that girl. She's not old enough to know what she wants out of life. She doesn't have the experience. Maybe. But help me with this, alright? Because here's where I'm going to hit you with your own philosophy. For a good year or so, I've seen the mainstream progressive left push the idea that children can decide for themselves what gender they want to be. Where do you stand on that? Do you think a 6-year-old can decide for herself that she wants to be a boy and then undergo treatments that will affect her for the rest of her life based on what she wants at 6 years old? Where do you stand on that? All the people who have a problem with this 60-year-old marrying an 18-year-old, where do you stand on that? Because I've been seeing it, and I don't see the outrage. I don't see the anger from the black community. And this is affecting a lot of black children. I mean, man, I look at a lot of some black children, not a lot, but Dwayne Wade's children come to mind, Will Smith's kids come to mind. And here we have an excerpt from Delano Squire where he lists many beliefs of the Democratic Party.
If I was someone on the left, I would start to ask the people around me, like, what's going on here?
We're the party that thinks that kids should be killed in the womb. If a mother doesn't want a child, right? As long as the child hasn't drawn its first breath, and you can find a doctor who'll do it, let's get rid of the kid. When they get here, starting at 3 years old, we should introduce them to gender confusion. And when states stop us from doing that, we're gonna pout and bang on the table, and we're gonna say gay, 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 gay for 2 weeks straight and put up billboards, right? When the kids hit 10 years old, we think it's appropriate to put them on puberty blockers and hormones. When the girls hit 15, we think it's appropriate for them to cut off their breasts if they think they were born in the wrong body. And by 19, if they want to permanently mutilate their genitals, we think that that's affirming healthcare. When they hit 20, Jason, if they want to do sex work, no different than working at a law firm. And then when they eventually get into child pornography, which Judge Jackson made it sound as if you can just be on the internet, you know, going from Yahoo to ESPN and then, you know, land on a treasure trove of child porn. If they do that, we will be the party to speak up for their rights, to talk about the true victims of society, those guys who have 10,000 images of prepubescent adolescents on their thumb drives and hard drives. That's who we are as the Democratic Party in 2022. If I was a pollster, I would start telling people, hey, I don't think this is gonna fly with the American public.
Now, the reason why I'm mentioning the Democratic Party is because it's a party where 91% of black women, they vote for the Democratic Party. So with all due respect, I'm having a hard time believing the concern for a woman's future is genuine. Or at the very least, it's not in the right place. Meaning, do we really have her best interests at heart? Not what our wicked mainstream society wants for her, not even what she may want for herself because it may be bad, but what's right for her according to our Heavenly Father. If you haven't got it by now, that's my standard for what's right and wrong. It's based on the Bible. So, if we care so much about protecting our girls, why aren't we providing for them a loving, strong father who's living in the house with them? A father who's watching over them as they grow up and providing them with strength and guidance. In this video, a woman was kind enough to be honest and finally admit that she believes the black woman is more important than the black community.
Is the black community continuing more important than the black woman?
No.
You can't make it up. Then you make it. And this is why I tell you guys, sell out. Sell out the femininity, because at that point, you're always going to be a hostage. They don't have to do anything. It's getting worse, and they just want you to waste your time. Ma'am, you cannot put black women above the black community.
How can we protect black girls if there is no community? If players and thugs are the issues, why aren't we protecting our black girls by teaching them not to value the Nick Cannons, the Chris Browns, or the NBA Youngboys of the world? Why aren't we teaching them to wait until marriage to have sex? Honestly, how many times do we have to hear of a woman who has had sex with a man she loves only for that man to spurn her advances for marriage? If this happens time and time again, where, you know, oh, the guy's not, you know, being responsible by marrying her, why aren't we doing our damnedest to warn our black women, our black girls? And if we care so much about our girls, why aren't we telling them the truth? That the world isn't one big fantasy where you can do whatever you want, live however you want, and everyone must love and accept and respect and pine after you regardless. Why aren't we telling them the truth about fitness and beauty, however subjective it may be? Why aren't we teaching them the consequences of their choices? If you choose to prioritize your career and education over getting married, there are risks and rewards to this decision. There are sacrifices that come along with it, but I think too many people hear only of the rewards. Last year, I got into a heated argument with my stepmother about Lizzo. My new stepmother. This is a woman who I've known my whole life, but a couple of years, my dad married her. All right, and she came down and we were talking about it, and my stepmother, black woman, said, I believe everyone should do whatever they want if it makes them happy. I'm glad Lizzo's out there dancing the way she wants. This is back when Lizzo was dancing in thong and all of that came out. And she's showing other women, you know, that no matter how big they are, they can do whatever they want. They can do the same. And I'm like, okay. So if an 18-year-old wants to marry a 63-year-old, what's the problem? She's doing what she wants. But Rock, she's not old enough. She doesn't know what she wants. All right, we're going back to this argument. Basically, you're implying everyone should do whatever they want if it makes them happy, unless it's something me and my ilk, my clan, my crew, my community, we think it's wrong. Then you should not do that. And it's kind of sad if you really think about it too, because when you look at what all immoral behaviors that we're talking about that is accepted and morally pushed in commercials and TV shows, once upon a time, our community, the black community, really disapproved of it. right? Once upon a time, the black community was synonymous to the black church. It's not like that anymore. I talked to my mom about these guys, these 63-year-olds marrying 18-year-olds, and she blamed the situation on men for giving up their power and control when it comes to, the communities and how much we've changed over the years. She says this as a Christian because she knows that men are supposed to be the leaders, that men should have the courage to say no when it came to relinquishing their power and allowing women to dictate the rules. Right now, you hear it a lot too, right? Like, right now the black community is a matriarchy that women rule. That's what they're saying. If that's true, this is wrong. If it is true, I say in one of my books that if it's true that women rule the world, it's because men have come to love women more than they love God. This is lopsided. This is not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a patriarchy based on Bible principles. Society has done its damnedest to trick you into thinking this is wrong, and because you don't know the Bible or have faith in God or put God first, you allowed yourself to basically be shamed into thinking, yeah, the patriarchy's wrong. We gotta put more women in power. Now I know all this sounds sexist and misogynistic to say. I get it, but at the end of the day, when we all die, we will all be judged, and you're not going to be the one judging me, telling me where I'm going to be in the kingdom of heaven or not. It's God. That's why I'm putting God first. That's why I have no fear in saying these things. Men are supposed to be leading. When Adam and Eve ate from the fruit of the forbidden tree, God didn't go to Eve and say, hey, what did you do? What have you done? He went to Adam because it was Adam who he warned. You must not eat from the tree or else you will die. That's in Genesis chapter 2, verse 16 through 17. So when Eve bought into Satan's lies and ate from the tree, it was Adam's responsibility to tell her no. He should have said, no, this is not good. But he didn't. Just like men today, he gave in. On that, I do agree with my mother. We men are to blame. At the same time, I can't deny that there do exist men like myself who strive to put God first, and as much as it is my greatest hope and desire to have a family and raise children to contribute in offsetting the wicked who pervert God's word, it hinges on finding a woman who's young, beautiful, fertile, and strives to put God first as well as I do. I hate to say it, man, but I just went to a reunion for a cousin's graduation, and sure enough, I had my aunts out there, and they saw how good looking I am, and like, how are you still single? Is there no one? And it's like, it's gotten to the point where I'm just gonna straight up say, yes, because I'm judgmental. Because I am. I want to marry a Christian woman. And here's a crazy thing. One of my uncles, who's supposed to be a pastor, said, well, Rock, you really don't want to lead with the scriptures. And I'm like, I don't. But even if I did, so what? If I'm talking to a person who claims to be Christian, the Bible shouldn't be intimidating to you. It shouldn't be like, holding a cross to a vampire. It's the Bible. When I tried online dating last year, I put on my profile that I'm a Christian living by Christ standards. And I matched with a lot of black, beautiful ladies, all right? And they purported themselves to be Christians as well. But when I asked them questions, like I asked earlier about, whether you choose the Bible or the world, a lot of them couldn't pick the Bible. I call them corrupted. When I say corrupted, meaning you were infiltrated by feminism and today's modern ideologies to the point where you say things like, oh, well, the times have changed. God's word hasn't. And if you're really a Christian, when I don't want to say you're not a real Christian or not Christian, but if you were a good Christian, you would know that even though times have changed, you choose to stand by God's word. My point being, as much as it is on us men to lead and take responsibility, saying no when it calls for it, if the women we're choosing, if the women in our community, they don't go for us, but instead they go for the ones with the looser morals, the ones who aren't judgmental, those who don't have the courage to say no, those who are convenient Christians, the type to pick and choose what scriptures they live by while rejecting others, what's a man to do? Like when I see, just even with the shooting that just happened, it's hard for me to care as much as I used to about it because there's nothing we can do about it. Evil will continue to exist. All these arguments are pointless. No one's talking about returning to Christian principles. Everyone's thinking, okay, we as humans can do something about it. You can't. All right? You cannot. Evil will always exist. The best thing you can do is pray, have faith, live your life by God's standards, okay? The book of Deuteronomy tells us what will happen if you don't and what will happen if you do. Sometimes bad things happen to Christians, and to that I use the book of Job as an example. Sometimes we use as examples to help strengthen and encourage others. But no matter what, a Christian has faith that no matter what card he's dealt with in life, all is going according to God's plans. All is going according to God's plans. So when asked what's a man to do, we as men, we have to think about that, you know, and the obvious answer is to pick out a woman who hasn't been corrupted yet. And sometimes it could be someone who's really young so that they can be groomed to be a future wife. Now, I want to say, not all women need to be groomed. Some women were born and raised in a good household where their parents already groomed them, right? And a lot of these women, I think, are wifed up pretty early in age. Like, and I have a lot of friends who I went to high school with. They got married like soon after college or even before college, and they're still married, you know? And I think that those people were groomed by their parents to be good wives and husbands. You know, I wasn't groomed to be a good husband. I was groomed to be, yeah, I was. Yeah, I was. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I was a teenager, and my parents taught me that dating is in preparation for marriage. You know, I wasn't raised to engage in hookup culture, so I was shocked when I heard about the hookup culture, because I'm like, wow, that's not how I was raised, and this is surprising. So in conclusion, you know, when it comes to this geriatric man marrying a barely legal woman, I do hope that they find happiness. I do hope that they stay together and prove everyone wrong. I know everyone has a problem with it, but I hope those same people have a problem with stuff like what's going on with our children, and, you know, the black on black violence that is happening because, in part, that a lot of young men aren't raised by their fathers, so they grow up thinking, you know, the emotional response is the best response. And I want to add something else when it comes to like myself, you know, a 35-year-old man or any other 30-year-old man who's, you know, who might match with someone who's 22 or younger. You know, I think that, you know, like, of course I feel a type of way about it. I would be concerned about what my parents and my friends or family think. But if she's mature enough for me, if she's interested in me, if she marks off all the check boxes, as my older brother says, you know, like, I would definitely give her a shot. And I think it makes sense with a man like me, if you're a man like me, because, let's see, how do I put this? It's annoying to deal with someone who's constantly trying to compete with you. You know, like, when it comes to women my own age, I think it makes sense for women my own age. If I'm 35 and I match it with another 35-year-old, now, unless she's super humble and, you know, very, very sweet and is open to being led, which is very rare. I haven't found that, you know. I think it makes sense that a lot of women who have had a lot of experience, you know, they've been through heartbreaks and breakups, you know, they had men cheat on them and stand them up. Of course, you're going to have a whole bunch of baggage and stuff. And I don't want to say baggage as if it's this terrible thing. Everyone has some baggage. When you're someone my own age, unless you're open and impressed by what I have to say, unless you believe and put trust in me, you know, that I'm not trying to just control and lord over you for making you my slave, you're going to give me a lot of pushback. You're going to tell yourself, oh, well, you're 35 and I'm 35, and, you know, the world's telling us that we're both equal, so, you know, whatever you do, I can do. So, you know, like, there's no point in you leading, you know, we can do everything the same. It's like, no, I'm not marrying you. We can be buddies, we can be friends, I'm not marrying you. I think a younger woman is more likely going to give me the benefit of the doubt that I know what I'm talking about, and that I have greater experience when it comes to people and situations.